So I will grasp with both hands the anything that will give us an advantage over the Nazi menace.
Yeah, I'm gonna hate you. Hello and welcome to another Twatty New Who review, this time for Victory of the Daleks. But first, let's talk for a moment about episode length. As those of you who have watched these in order have perhaps noticed, they're getting longer with each instalment. That wasn't intended, and it's not something I want to continue with, so I've made every effort to make this episode shorter. Every effort except for playthings at double speed. So I've cut out jokes about geese having sex with cars, and that scene I filmed while the nostalgia critic was asleep after I broke into his house one night. So here it is, the newest Twatty New Who review, leaner and meaner. Well, as mean as it can be without that bit where I killed the baby seals. Anyway, this is meant to be shorter, which is why I'm picking on a Matt Smith episode rather than The End of Time. It's still shit though. We open in World War II, because I'm pretty sure that World War II is the second most commonly used time period in New Who after the present day. Why? Because the British love World War II. It was the last time they felt important. So enter Ian McNeese's Churchill, someone that you might recognise from that Dune adaptation with all the silly hats, or that film where Jim Carrey wasn't funny in Africa. He's fat and English, so obviously he was born to play Churchill, who after all was fat and English. Things are looking bad for the Allies, so Churchill orders the secret weapon be brought out.
Well then, time to roll out the secret weapon.
Quite where this scene fits in with the end of the last episode where we saw Churchill being threatened by a Dalek isn't really explained. Churchill mentions that that event was a month before the Doctor turned up, but was the order given in this scene before the threat in the last one? Was it right before the Doctor turned up? Fucked if I know.
Hey mate. Winston Churchill.
Doctor, is it you?
Winston, my old friend.
Now I'm going to complain about Churchill quite a bit, but this I do like. The Doctor already knows him. I get the feeling that the makers didn't intend to make this a reference to the Sixth Doctor becoming friends with him, and they just got bored of the Doctor meeting famous people for the first time. But still, it's a nice nod. So where was I? Oh yes, hating on Churchill. You'd think that such a famously fat and English actor playing such a famously fat and English guy would be a cinch. But no, he's a caricature, smoking a cigar in every second scene, always wearing that fucking famous bow tie. If I didn't know for a fact that he's going to start rambling off different pieces of his speeches for no reason at all, I'd be amazed if he didn't start to ramble off different pieces of his speeches for no reason at all. It's not that far removed from having George Washington in an episode, and having him spend half his time wandering off to cut down cherry trees while he's supposed to be doing the important business of planning to give half the country to some slaves with their magic sword. Yes, the cherry tree thing didn't actually happen, but neither did the magic sword slave thing. So yes, another thing. Churchill phoned the Doctor. The man is not a plumber. Did the Doctor mess with every phone Churchill has access to make it possible for him to contact him in the far future? Or can anyone in any time period phone the Doctor? Because fuck that dumbassery. There's a bombing raid coming, so Churchill takes the Doctor and Amy onto the roof to watch. Oh, Winston, that's the cleverest thing you've done since trying to keep women from voting. And it's the cleverest thing you'll do until you compare the NHS to Nazism in 1947. The Prime Minister on the roof of his own secret bunker. Apart from the obvious point of someone might try to stop the country's leader from trying to get himself killed like that, it's Churchill. The man drank bottles of champagne daily while his people were being rationed to shit and spent most of his career at least slightly drunk. He clearly did not give that much of a fuck, so I can believe that. What I find hard to believe is that they can make it from the secret bunker, which is several stories below ground, up to the roof of what appears to be a tall building in a few seconds, and that even though they're on the roof, the lift appears to have yet more floors it could go up. And just in case you're thinking that there's other higher parts of the same building, I suppose it's possible, but we never get to see that, and we get to see quite a bit of the roof. So why has the Prime Minister decided to threaten the life of himself, his best friend, who's the alien with all the crazy tech that he won't use to help win the war, and his scantily clad friend that no one ever comments about the legs of, even though this is the early 40s? Simple. This.
Fire!
What's that?
From the CGI explosions being placed over the CGI planes and the lack of debris, I'd say that was the start of Left Behind. but I could be wrong.
Our new secret weapon!
Ah yes, a Dalek, the second most evil force in the galaxy after Kirk Cameron. I suppose it was obvious from the episode's title. After all, if anyone always achieves victory, it's the Daleks. I have to give credit where it's due. The camo green Dalek looks great. All the Russell T Davies era Daleks looked great. It's just a pity that they were replaced with the Skittle variants that we'll see soon enough. So the Daleks are working for the British. They've been renamed Ironsides and were apparently created by Bill Patterson, who's taking time off from starring in Sea of Souls, aka the show that I'm convinced was about the Scottish Torchwood office. The Doctor spends ages trying to convince Churchill and Amy that the Daleks are, well, Daleks, without ever taking the obvious step of finding a picture of one in the TARDIS. Also, why does the secret project have posters made for it? Fucking hell, that's like creating a morale-boosting film called The Manhattan Project about nuclear weapons in 1944. And why are these things being kept near the Prime Minister? Apparently you all think they're artificial intelligence. You are at war. The last thing you want is for your new playthings deciding that Churchill is actually John Connor. You don't need to have seen RoboCop to see why this could maybe be a bad idea. Anyway, Amy doesn't seem to know what a Dalek is.
Planets in the sky, you don't forget that. Amy, tell me you remember the Daleks.
I wish I could forget the stolen Earth. My life would be 0.7% better. Of course there's one slight problem with the camo Daleks. The bags around their midsection. They can't fucking open them. And what the fuck is gonna be inside them? Anyway, time for Churchill to begin quoting the real Churchill.
If Hitler invaded hell, I would give a favourable reference to the devil.
Mr. Washington, your axe is on standby and I've ordered some trees. So, no one believes the Doctor about the Daleks. I can't say I'm very sympathetic. Once someone's fought something about 74 times, I expect them to have some sort of evidence for their existence. If that makes me a cunt, then I'm a cunt. Because being an idiot's not quite enough for the Doctor this episode, he has to be an extra special sort of idiot and try to get a Dalek to kill him. But first, something that'll be important later on the episode.
Some musings on the potential of hypersonic flight. Gravity bubbles that can sustain life outside of the terrestrial atmosphere came to me in the bath.
Remember these things. Also, the scientist just said that the Daleks are robots. Doctor, could you not ask the scientist to kindly open one up so we could see how there's definitely not a slimy monster inside? And finally, it's time for the Doctor's second failed suicide attempt by Dalek in 3 seasons.
You hate me. You want to kill me. Well, go on. Kill me.
Of course, in classic Who, that probably would have killed the Dalek in question. They had a tendency to be killed by stupid things sometimes. For the greatest death machines in the universe, they could really be quite crap. So point to you, New Who. This whole sequence where the Doctor gets oh so pissed off isn't good. Anger in real life is frequently funny looking for people not involved, so when actors are playing anger, it can easily come off as funny. Sylvester McCoy had this problem a lot, and Matt Smith has it here. Unfortunately, the realism of funny anger fucks up the mood that they're going for. At least this sounds better than the raw audio that was snuck online a few years ago. That sounded like a kid's school play doing Doctor Who. And what exactly is the Daleks' plan? Well, to get the Doctor to say he's the Doctor and that they are the Daleks in one sentence. Because the Daleks have a machine that will create more Daleks, but because these Daleks are crap, it won't accept that they're actually Daleks, so they need the Doctor to tell them that they are Daleks.
Review testimony!
I am the Doctor, and you are the Daleks.
Wow, to be such an unpopular race that the one guy in the universe who has defeated you time after time is the only guy who can give you a reference. But like the thing with the Doctor not using images of the Daleks have recorded the Doctor's mind to try and create a double before. Why couldn't they have rustled up a recording of Peter Davison being miffed at them? And so the Daleks went to Earth, ingratiated themselves with Churchill just to get the Doctor to come. How did the Daleks know he knew the Doctor? How did they know that he had the Doctor's number? How long were they willing to stay and work for him if the Doctor didn't turn up? It's not like they could just start killing random people to get the Doctor's attention. They're at war. There's enough of that going on that he wouldn't notice. And there's an alternate reality version of this story where the Doctor never came and the Allies won the war with the Daleks in a much shorter time, and then the Allies nuked them just to be safe, saving millions of human lives overall. So the Doctor, just by being in this story, made history worse. Bravo! So having done their plan, the Daleks just kill the red shirts, instead of everyone in the room, which is strange because killing everyone in the room who's not a Dalek is their defining characteristic. Last time I checked, the Doctor, Amy and Churchill weren't Daleks. Although if you squint, Churchill is shaped a bit like one. Oh, and they shoot the scientist to show he's a robot. For no reason at all. The Daleks are about killing, not emotionally fucking with people. Well, they will emotionally fuck with people, but not if they're able to kill them just as easily. And then they just leave, rather than kill them all. For some reason! And outside, some guy in blackout watch has his hands full.
Oi! Put that light out!
The building right above where the Prime Minister's secret bunker is located can't even hire people who realise that the one thing you're supposed to do during a blackout is keep your lights off. Clearly, their hiring practices rival the genius of the guys who asked Ian McNeice to play Churchill. And why oh why is he worried about that light? It looks like fucking daylight out there. So meanwhile, in a parking garage, the Doctor's convinced it's actually a Dalek spaceship. Poor guy, the stress is getting to him.
The ship's pretty beaten up.
He convinces the Daleks that he'll destroy them all with a biscuit if they attack him. You'd think that Daleks would have scanners that could tell the difference between technology and a sweet snack without the Doctor noticing he's being scanned. But no, this plot requires everyone to be an idiot. Except for this woman's boyfriend. And that's because he got himself killed before the episode began. The Daleks decide to, somehow, switch on every light in London, which frankly makes it look only a tiny bit more lit up than it did when they were all off. Great work effects, guys! And how the fuck did the Daleks do that? It's not like these things are computer controlled. It's all physical. Did they use a telekinesis ray? Because that's a useful thing to have in every other Dalek story ever. Also, by turning on all the lights in London, all you're doing is spreading the bombing around. Why not just turn the lights on the building which is above the bunker on? Therefore killing everyone inside there, including Churchill and Amy. It'd piss off the Doctor. So the machine works, and the Daleks are created out of... I'm going to say butter because it makes as much sense as any other answer. Now excuse me, I'm going to make a gag everyone else who's ever seen this episode ever has made.
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
Alpha, readers escape. Recruiter team of teenagers with attitudes.
Welcome to the new Daleks, and you know, it's not the colour coding that bothers me, or the fact that they're now giant. It's the fact that they look like they've had boob jobs, and hunchbacks. They look like the devil children of bumper cars and drag queens. Russell T Davies' era had the Dalek design so fucking good that it must have taken a great deal of effort to fuck it up quite so much. Well done! And as a final fuck you, they kill off the old ones. Nice one. Double points for not shooting your arch enemy who's right in front of you. Who looked at these and thought, that's fucking brilliant. The one thing that the hero's arch nemesis have been missing for the last few years is looking like they've been made from fucking plastic. I'm sorry, maybe I'm insane, but when it looks like a Dalek could be killed by a blowtorch, I consider that a problem.
Bracewell, put the gun down.
Oh good, the intelligence continues. They've left the robot created by the hostile aliens alone in his lab, where he designed things like teleporters and lasers. With a gun and easy access to the Prime Minister. Is this like the William Hartnell story where they couldn't afford a brig set and they had to lock the Doctor up in the security kitchen? Oh jeez, I hope not, because that was at least hilarious. This guy was essentially a sleeper agent. Surely they should have locked him up, ready to be experimented on or shot or some shit. Why couldn't he have just been locked up and be begging to be killed? Because they spent all of their budget on things like making the Daleks look less fucking threatening than the telebugs. So yeah, he's suicidal, as you'd expect.
Listen to me. I understand. Really. I do.
You really fucking don't, you ginger bitch. Listen, I am fine with Amy. She's probably my favourite New Who companion, but fucking hell, that's fucking terrible. There are some things that you cannot know what it's like to have happen to you unless it does happen to you, and discovering your entire life is a lie and you are a robot created by an evil race of genocidal alien space fascists is one of them. So Amy, the scientist, and Churchill work out a plan, because a civilian who's wearing stuff that would break the local indecency laws, a robot made by your enemy who's on the brink of complete emotional collapse, and a caricature of a guy who was actually pretty fucking terrible when it came to actual military tactics, is the perfect team to work out how to defeat aliens far beyond anything any of them have ever dealt with before. Now remember the things that the scientist mentioned earlier, things that he'd come up with but never built, things like teleporters, gravity bubbles, and shit like that? Because within 10 minutes they build them and get them working and attacking the Dalek spaceship. Why do I know it's within 10 minutes? Because the Germans will arrive in 10 minutes and destroy London.
Bracewell, it's time to think big.
Apparently all NASA really needs is a fucking Scottish robot and an invasion threat, and they could colonise Mars in 45 minutes. And of course the Daleks are for some reason broadcasting their CCTV footage, because that makes sense. Oh, and finally Billy the Blue Dalek does the smartest thing done all episode. He takes a scan of the Doctor's sugary biscuit and works out that it couldn't harm a toy Dalek, let alone them.
Alright, it's a jammy Doctor, but I was promised tea.
Daleks, you can shoot. Shoot him. Hey, shoot! You can just shoot him. He's right there. I know you're under attack, but he's your arch enemy. He's still there. He's just standing there. It's not like the parting of the ways where the TARDIS shielding him. Hey, what's that? A guy you could shoot. Look at him. He'd love it. You know what I love? People being shot. Shoot. He's still there, ready to be dead. You know as genocidal alien space fascists go, you're even worse than the last ones. And yeah, this series is answer to the Doctor's daughter jumping through the laser beam scene. Spitfires in space armed with lasers against the Dalek spaceship. Take it all in its gloriously painful stupidity, and amazingly, the one pilot with any lines is the only one to survive. They destroy the dish and save London. The Doctor then gets to quote a much better Doctor and a much better story.
The final end.
So the Daleks announce that Bracewell, the scientist, has a bomb inside him and they will set it to explode. A bomb that will destroy the entire planet, if the Doctor doesn't call off the last Spitfire. Because even though the Daleks are a mighty race of genocidal fuckheads, they can't put more than one easily destroyable laser gun on the outside of their ship. But really, who's the bigger idiot, them or the Doctor who acts surprised when they set him to explode anyway once he calls off the Spitfire? So the Daleks retreat, ready to do something sometime, and the Doctor has but ages to stop the bomb. Very efficient work there, Daleks. Leave the hero with more than enough time to disarm it. Oh, and millimeters below his skin, the scientist looks like Iron Man as designed by Joel Schumacher. Okay, the bomb thing. What the fuck? What if he was hit by a fucking car? You morons, what would happen to your plan then? He's in a city that's constantly being bombed in a big fucking war. It's not like there's no chance he's going to be destroyed. So how can the Doctor save the day? How can he save the world from the exploding scientist? Well, apart from grabbing him, taking him into the TARDIS and kicking him out into the nearest black hole? Well, by the power of love. His love for a woman in the village where the real guy he was based on grew up in. So what's stupider than a spaceship powered by love? Possibly a robot diffused by love. Maybe if someone catapulted the robot at the spaceship powered by love, they'd wipe each other out and save the universe from their shitness. Oh, and it's time to AP Ujima for some reason. Just when and why did that flag get knocked over anyway? And the scientist now has a gloved hand. A gloved hand that moves. Was the prosthetic wrist that much hassle? Or is he just good enough to build a new hand in a matter of minutes, but too shit to build skin? No answers, I'm afraid, because the Doctor sends him off to win the heart of the girl that the original guy he's based off loves. With no thought for the original guy or the woman in question. For all they know, they could already be fucking married. Even if they're not, when do you tell someone that you're dating that you are a fucking robot? Roughly the same time frame for telling your partner that you have 3 penises and an ass where your nipples should be, I'd guess. And we end on a crack in time. These things spend the entire series eating people and removing them from everyone's memory but keeping their actions intact. So realistically, at some point, pretty much everyone in this bunker should have ended up vanishing, including Churchill himself. That'll fuck the time stream up a bit, won't it? We won the war. We don't know how or why, but we did. This is awful. Now, I like Mark Gatiss, and I think he'd be the man to helm a new Adam Adamant if they remade it, but his record on Doctor Who has been too terrible and too okay. This is not good. And whoever decided that doing a silly, light-hearted episode about the Blitz and the fucking Daleks would be a good idea should be locked into a small room and made to think about bone kickers. The Daleks in World War II are both connected to genocide, the sort of thing that should at least be taken vaguely seriously. The concept of the Daleks working with the British against the Nazis could have been rich and interesting and have had depth, but they pissed it away for Spitfires in space and multicoloured monstrosities. Imagine this, the Daleks are working with Churchill and the Doctor tries to convince him how evil they are, and in the end, Churchill doesn't care. He must destroy the Nazis no matter the cost, forcing the Doctor to work with a German agent to try and defeat the Daleks. The companion knows how horrible the Nazis are, but doesn't know how horrible the Daleks are, and has to choose sides between standing with the Doctor or against the greatest evil she knows of. It would be an interesting and dramatic tale of the lesser of two evils. It could have been a multi-layered and interesting 2-parter, but instead we got this. And it's fucking awful.